So my oldest son encouraged me to start a series telling stories about my life. I wasn't really interested when he mentioned it, but the more I thought about it, I considered it could be therapeutic. Human memory is far from perfect, and I have had a few head injuries in my adulthood, so I often feel like there are holes in many of my memories. So when I encounter those holes, I tend to fill them in with things that just make sense to me. With that disclaimer in mind, these are the stories of Joe. In the spring of 2006, I was living in a small house with a bunch of roommates in Covington, Georgia. There was this basketball court a couple miles down the street where we would go play 21 on the weekends. And it was always fun. The court was not lit, so we always went during the day. However, one day in early April, we decided to go play even though it was later than usual. So, one of my roommates, let's call him B, and his friend, let's call him W, decided to join me, and B drove. As we were playing, having a good time, some younger people started to join in, which was great. I was 21 at the time, and the kids joining in were between 16 and 19. As the sun started to set, I could not help but notice that as more kids were joining our game, a group of kids their age was starting to surround the court on the boundary lines. I started counting them and was not finished when I reached 10. That made me a little anxious. I told my friends we should probably take off before we run out of light, and I quickly grabbed our keys, cell phones, and wallets from a nearby bench and distributed them. I announced to everyone that it had been fun playing with them, but we needed to go, so I asked for my ball. The younger, skinny kid who had the ball quickly passed it to the largest, probably oldest of the group. He held the ball behind his back and announced that we were not going anywhere. My friends and I looked at each other confused. Then the younger kid explained, "Y'all can leave after you take your keys, wallets, and phones out of your pockets and lay them on the court." B and W must have been through something similar before, because their keys, wallets, and phones were on the ground by the time the instructions were complete, and they were walking down the street. But somehow, I couldn't do it. "No," I said, "you are not taking anything from me." The human boundary lines started closing in on me, and one person stepped between me and the other two who had been talking. He said nothing. He just lifted his shirt and exposed the grip of a pistol tucked in his waistband. But I was already committed. "You're not going to shoot me," I commanded. The largest one stepped in and punched me in the gut. I lost my breath for a moment, but I stayed on my feet. I considered hitting him back, but something stopped me. I made a decision to endure. I was not going to hurt anyone, but I was not going to surrender either. So I stood up straight and stared him in the eye. Then, they all started attacking me. I defended and deflected what I could, but I did not attack. I endured. As the attack progressed, I realized their level of commitment to putting me down, and I thought, stay on your feet and you will be okay. I figured if they got me to the ground, the stomping would start, but they hadn't shot me yet, so they either were unwilling or unable to do so. As I attempted to defend myself, I took intentional backward steps toward the road. I figured if I could get in front of oncoming traffic, they would not follow me. As I got close to the edge of the road, I thought I had broken through the surrounding because I could see pretty much all of them in front of me, and I was no longer getting hit from behind. Then, I heard a loud crack, and wooden splinters passed by my eyes. My vision was gone for a moment. I did not fall. Everyone stopped hitting me and started backing away. I turned around and saw the older, larger person holding a broken wooden bat. He looked at me like you would look at a ghost. He swung what was left of the wooden bat at my face, but I put my left hand up and took it from him. Then I pushed past him and stood in the middle of the road. A pair of headlights froze right in front of me. The young skinny one who had originally told me to leave without my stuff dropped everything that had been taken from me and my friends at my feet and told me to take my stuff and leave. They all scattered. B&W suddenly returned and directed me to B's car. All the windows were broken. I sat in the back seat and put my hand on the back of my head. Then I looked at my hand. It was covered in blood. I looked down at my shirt. It was covered in blood. "Do you guys think I should go to the hospital?" I asked. B started speeding toward the hospital. Of course, we got pulled over. B explained everything to the police officer, but he still made us all get out of the car. He looked at me and called for an ambulance. He took our statements while we waited for the ambulance and filed an official report. In the ER, they examined me. I had superficial bruising on most of my body, a broken nose, and a major gash on the back of my head, which required 5 staples. In retrospect, the ambulance ride, the hospital visit, and all my prescriptions combined were probably more expensive than replacing what would have been stolen from me. Weeks later, I was called into the police station to speak with an investigator. He had 2 suspects in custody who he believed were involved in the attack. I looked at their photos and identified them as the 2 who had initiated the confrontation. The investigator asked if I wanted to press charges. I decided not to. At the time, I didn't know why I made that decision. My friends said I was scared of retaliation, but I knew I was not scared of them. I had learned that I could take more than they could dish out. Years later, I now know why I did not press charges. I had forgiven them.